Hello YouTube, it is that time again. Well, it's not that time again. This is the first time I'm doing it. It's that time of the year. And this, guys, is probably going to be my favorite video I've made all year. It's one I've been having a lot of trouble deciding what my tops are going to be for this list. So guys, without further ado, this is my top 15 movies of the year. Yes, there were a lot of good movies this year, but couldn't limit it to 10. I was trying so hard to limit to 10, but then I was like, I have so many more movies I like this year, though. But before we do that, I'm going to actually mention a few honorable mentions. I want to get those out of the way before the actual list starts. So I will get to that in like 1 second. Okay, guys, so first things first, we're going to get down to my honorable mentions, and the first one on this list is one, it technically came out last year, but because it was wide release this year, The Wind Rises is the first honorable mention on my list, because it was such a good movie. Surprised it didn't win the Academy Award this year. Makes no sense at all. I don't know how Frozen won. I also own The Wind Rises on Blu-ray right now, so that's pretty cool too. I got it like the day it came out. It was really awesome. The next one on my list is The Raid 2. The only problem with this one, and why I thought it wasn't as good as The Raid, the first one, was because it was a really good action movie still, of course, but the only problem with it was it seemed like it was trying to do this big, like, oh, this is the crime syndicate and the Yakuza, and you gotta take control, and the son's trying to get the power, and the father is getting mad at the son for trying to take the power, and it was just like, we don't need this. We need action. I mean, that's what these two films are about, is the action. The next one on my list is The Equalizer. It was a very freaking awesome movie with Denzel Washington as a awesome badass, and he's just killing people all the time. It was really good. The next one is 22 Jump Street. It's my favorite comedy of the year. It was like and the cool thing about this movie was it was so self-aware. I loved it so much. It was just a funny movie, and it made me laugh a lot in the theater. And this is my next one, and I will just name all three of these off at once, so I don't have to explain them all. But the three animated movies are The Lego Movie, very good film. I was so surprised by it. How to Train Your Dragon 2, of course. It was an amazing film. It looked good. Had a good story. The characters are funny. It was such a good movie. And finally, The Box Trolls. And I think this, out of all of, I can't remember the company's name that makes these movies, but out of all their films, I think this is the weakest one, but it was still good nonetheless. I just didn't think it was as good as Coraline or Paranorman, and that's just my opinion. Next up, I have A Walk Among the Tombstones. It was a movie that came out in September. It had Liam Neeson in it. It's actually a really good like mystery thriller, crime drama type thing, and it was a really good movie. And I would recommend that you watch it sometime because it was Liam Neeson not actually playing his usual role that he usually plays. So that was interesting to see. And I have two more movies on my honorable mentions. First I have Chef. It's a really good Jon Favreau movie that I was also surprised by, and you need to be eating food while watching this or you will get so hungry that you need to like go out and buy like 10,000 hamburgers or you will starve for the rest of your life or something. That's what this movie makes you feel like because all the food in this movie looks so good. And finally, on my list, I have a movie that came out in like March. I didn't get to see it till later though. It's called Locke, and it stars Tom Hardy, and it was a really good movie. And the most effective thing about it was it all is Tom Hardy sitting in a car talking on a phone the whole movie. It's just the performance by him is so good, and all the emotion that's packed into it is really good. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't watched it, but it's just a really good movie, really good time. And guys, that concludes my honorable mentions, and now we will get on to my list. Okay, so everyone, so the first one up on my list is one I didn't get to see in theaters, but I eventually got to one on DVD, and the first one, at number 15, is Grand Budapest Hotel was just such a good movie. I loved it. My parents thought it was weird, but it's Wes Anderson, so it's always gonna be a weird movie. And I mean, it's just because Wes Anderson is such a freaking awesome director. Because I've seen other movies by him with like Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise Kingdom, so I wasn't surprised by how silly this movie was a little bit. It was a really funny movie, by the way. All the performances were just amazing. I like that Jeff Goldblum was in this movie. He's just such a cool guy. Anyway, guys, Grand Budapest Hotel is an amazing movie. It is a really good movie, and it is number 15 on my list. Now, number 14 on my list might be a little bit... Some people may not agree with me that it should even be on my list. It should have been an honorable mention. But number 14 on my list is... Now, I know there have been many complaints with the new Godzilla movie, but in my opinion, it was one of my favorite... It was the one that truly started off the summer season of movies. It was one of my favorite movies of the year because... Yeah, maybe they focused a little bit too much on the human characters. Like they shouldn't have done that. Jesus, burp. Anyway, but they shouldn't have focused as much on. It's kind of like that Michael Bay feeling that I'm guessing the director had with this movie, because because Michael Bay does that thing where it's like the Transformers aren't the main focus. It's the human characters, and I will admit that it's kind of a disappointment that they focus too much on the human characters, but if you look at some of the older ones, I just watched Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah the other day. It's almost exactly the same. There's not really a big battle scene with the monsters until the very end. So I don't know what people were complaining about, because it's almost exactly the same as the older movies. So, you know, that's people's opinion, and I'm not going to argue with it. But Godzilla was my favorite movies. That final 30 minutes of the movie with Godzilla fighting the other whatever the thing was just amazing. It was awesome, and that is why it's number 14 on my list. Number 13 on my list is... So, Big Hero 6, it might be a little bit, I don't agree with you on that one. It shouldn't even be on your list. It should have been in your honorable mentions like the other animated movies, or you thought some of the other ones that I mentioned were better. But Big Hero 6 was one of those movies that I didn't even hear about it. I didn't even know about it till like August. Like I saw the first trailer I saw for it was I was going to watch Guardians of the Galaxy on August 1st. I had never heard about this movie at all before. First trailer I watched, I was laughing already. I'm wondering, is this going to be a good movie? The more it came towards the time for it to actually open in theaters, the more I was pumped for it. And when I saw it, it was amazing. It was a funny movie, and it was so cool because it gave off this message that kids should invent stuff. I mean, we don't invent enough new stuff in the world today. We don't invent enough innovative stuff. We just wonder what the next iPhone is going to be, or like what specs are going to be on my computer. We never think about, hey, maybe we should invent something different so that we won't ever have to worry about that. But this movie is a very good movie. It's a good one for kids. It's a freaking extremely amazing movie for kids. And it's a good time for me because, I mean, I'm 17 and I like Disney movies still. I mean, that should say something about how Disney can stand the test of time and can still appeal to adults even nowadays. And guys, that is why Big Hero 6 is number 13 on my list. Yes, I know I said this already, but number 12 on my list might, again, not make people too happy with me, but it was one of my favorite movies of the year, and that is... So Oculus was a very good horror movie. It's like one of my favorite horror movies I've seen all year. I've been hearing about this movie called The Babadook, and I've heard it's a really good one, a really good horror movie that came out this year too. I have not gotten the chance to see it though. When it comes to like Redbox or Netflix or whatever I can buy it on, then I will get it, because I've heard it's an amazing movie, and it's probably some people's best scary movie of the year. The Oculus, however, was my favorite because it was such a good psychological one. And I don't know what the hell is with all the criticism about it, because it's not even that bad of a movie. I don't know what people are bashing it for. I mean, yeah, you might not be able to understand the stuff that's going on at times, but that doesn't really matter that much because I thought it was just such a good psychological horror film. It's better than the crap fest that was Annabelle that came out this year. I didn't watch Ouija because I feel like my brain would probably melt in the middle of watching it. But Oculus was a good movie. It's on my best of the year list, and I just thought it was an amazing movie. I hope you guys agree with me, and that is why it is number 12 on my list. Now 11 on my list, guys, and this one was, oh my gosh. It is such a good thing that this director came back for a movie, and this movie is X-Men Days of Future Past. I was kind of skeptical going into it. I had just seen The Wolverine, which is a really good standalone movie from the X-Men franchise itself. But the last true X-Men movie we had, which was X-Men 3, The Last Stand, directed by Brett Ratner, was probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And it's definitely the worst X-Men, well, Origins Wolverine probably gets that title, but it still is the worst X-Men movie out of all of them, and it was just such a disappointment. Then, 2000, I think it was 2011, Bryan Singer came out with X-Men First Class, and I was like, this is a good movie. Wow, this is a really good X-Men movie. And then we got X-Men Days of Future Past, and this movie was so good. I mean, it was so awesome. The whole time travel aspect, all the mutants fighting, the whole thing with time, like explaining time travel itself at points, like how Beast explains how maybe, like, just because they tried to change the past, it won't matter because time will correct itself in the end. But another cool thing about this was it righted all the wrongs about all the crappy movies that were made before it with the Brett Ratner's X-Men 3 and the terrible X-Men Origins Wolverine. It was so good that this movie came out because it just said, screw it, we're just rebooting the whole thing. We're gonna pretend that every single movie before this one that doesn't exist now except for X-Men First Class. That's basically the movie order now. It's X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and that's where we are now in the chronological order of the entire series. And this, guys, was just an amazing movie and the performances by everyone in the movie were amazing, and one of the biggest surprises was the Quicksilver. I mean, I didn't expect that to be like the best part of the movie, but it was. The scene with Quicksilver was the best part of the movie. I don't know how that even happened. But guys, that is why X-Men Days of Future Past is number 11 on my list. Now, number 10, you guys may disagree and wonder why I put it so low on the list. There was just a lot of other movies I liked besides this one. And number 10 on my list is So Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It was a good movie. I really enjoyed it in the theaters. I saw it like the week after it came out in theaters, and I had been hearing good things about it, and I wanted to go and watch it so bad. So I finally got to see it in the closest like big type theater near me, which is like freaking. I still can't believe that the nearest town to me with a big theater is like 80 miles away. It's ridiculous. Anyway, not the point. I'm talking about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it was an amazing movie. I mean, it was such. I liked how the trailer. It kind of showed that it seemed like Gary Oldman was actually going to be the main bad guy of this movie. But but when you watch the movie, it's like, holy crap, that's insane. No way. Gary Oldman's like this down to earth guy. He's not a bad guy in general at all. He's just doing what he thinks will be right. He he gives so many chances to the apes so that he's not going to annihilate them, which is, I thought, was such a good judge of character. However, for the ape that is evil in this movie, I completely thought it was completely unjustifiable as to why he was evil. He was just evil to be evil, and it was ridiculous. But guys, it doesn't matter. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was a good movie. And it wasn't the best movie of the year in my opinion, but it was still a really good movie, and that's why Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is number 10 on my list. Now, next up, guys, and I'm guessing you'll probably have guessed that these movies are going to be on here eventually, but my movie at number 9 on my list is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This was probably the movie that kickstarted my year in general. The Lego movie was a good one. I didn't see too many things in March really, but once I was able to see Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I was like, "Oh man, the year for 2014 in movies has officially started." And the reason for that being was this movie was just such an amazing movie. I mean, the action sequences are good. It had like that spy espionage feel like to it. It was much better than the first one that was released, and and yeah, just some of the action was so fluid, and I loved it. And the characters are good. It had and like I just trust Disney with the Marvel brand now. I mean, it's like Disney, you do whatever you want. You are in my book as one of you are just amazing at handling this brand. Good job. Now, next up, guys, if you thought we were done with Marvel movies, you would be sorely mistaken. Next up on my list is. So, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy. I got the Blu ray. I think I showed that off in a video already. But this movie was just such a good movie in theaters. I mean, it kind of sucked that in the theater I was in, it was like the smallest seat I think I've ever been in. It was like literally like 5 rows of seats, and like everyone was crammed into it. And I was like, man, this is a really small theater. I wonder why we're not showing it in the bigger one. But nonetheless, Guardians of the Galaxy was just an amazing movie. I mean, I just watched it recently again. It was like the third time I've seen it. Still wasn't boring. It was still funny. I still loved it, and it was just an amazing movie. It had that cool. It was one of those movies, and like for the longest time, we have been making space movies and stuff like that, like Hollywood has, in which it's like makes space scary. It makes space you don't want to explore it because of what lies in the unknown of space. But what Guardians of the Galaxy did, which was really good, was it made space fun again. It made it so that people don't have to worry about going to space. It made space seem like somewhere you want to go, you want to explore it, you want to go into the unknown. And also the soundtrack for this movie, of course, was excellent. I mean, that's go without saying. And also the cast of characters was just amazing. I mean, you kind of thought the Rocket Raccoon, was kind of gonna be like that guy who's just like, oh, whatever. I mean, he's gonna make or break the movie. He might not be that good, but in the end, he was just like probably one of the funniest parts of this movie, and that was the best thing about it. And of course, I mean, Groot was probably one of my favorite parts too. It reminded me of like Chewbacca, how Chewbacca always just howls, and Han Solo knows exactly what it says, and that's what Rocket and Groot felt like to me a little bit, and it was pretty funny in that respect. And that, guys, is why Guardians of the Galaxy is number 8 on my list. So next up might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I thought it was actually a really good movie, and I heard mixed stuff about it. I heard it was a good movie, but it wasn't something that should be praised. But nonetheless, number 7 on my list is. So Interstellar was one of those movies. It's a Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, anything he makes is usually good, but it was one of those movies. It was one of the best experiences I've had in a movie theater this year. It was because, I mean, even showing it at my local movie theater, just to my local movie theater, keep that in mind. It's not the biggest thing. Just watching it in there was enough to make me just like sit here and be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? I don't know. And it was just such a good movie, and I thought it was a really it was not fun, but it was really cool. Like, I thought it was cool that I heard about how Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan both they studied this stuff, all this space stuff and whatnot, for like 6 years while making this movie, and I thought that's like dedication. I mean, it was just such a good movie. I haven't seen it again yet. I need to watch it again sometime. But Interstellar was a really thought-provoking movie. It's a really good movie, and that is why, guys, it is number 7 on my list. And number 6 was a movie that came to me by surprise. Like, I was not expecting much out of this movie, to be honest with you. It was it's one of my best movies of the year. I watched it last night, literally last night, and I'm like, this is going on my best of the year list. It has to. And that movie is. Now, guys, Snowpiercer. Holy crap, this movie came out of like left field towards me. I literally went to this movie knowing nothing about it. I literally like watched one review on it. Didn't think much of it. I didn't think much of like what I was getting into. I start watching it. I get through the whole thing, and I'm like, holy crap! How was this such a good movie? And Snowpiercer was just such an amazing movie. I mean, Chris Evans gave such an amazing performance in this movie. It's such a foreign film, too, because it doesn't go by the typical action film cliches and whatnot. You know what I mean? I mean, it is such a good movie in that respect that it's a foreign movie. Holy crap. You wouldn't think a foreign movie would be this good and look this good. I like that the train and like all the different sections like fit in so nicely. There was a lot of good plot twists. There was a lot of twists that came in, and I didn't really predict them at first. I kind of was thinking it, but I wasn't sure. And then when it came, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually what happened. I was just so surprised. And this movie was just such a good movie. Chris Evans gives probably the best performance I've ever seen him in, and I'm not gonna spoil like all the people that are in this movie because you will not like me if I do that. Snowpiercer is one of the most surprising films of the year and is definitely worth the number 6 spot on my list. And number 5, guys. Number 5. It's an amazing movie. I'm gonna tell you what it is in a second. Number 5 is Edge of Tomorrow. This movie's it's freaking amazing. It's an amazing movie. I don't like that. I don't like that though. I mean, it's like Live, Die, Repeat. Hey, let's not put Edge of Tomorrow as the biggest part. Let's put it right here in the small thing, so people will think that the movie's called Live, Die, Repeat. That'd be funny if people actually thought that, because that would be kind of stupid. But this movie is probably one of the best movies I've seen all year. It wasn't really a surprise to me. Like some people went into it thinking, oh, it's gonna be like Oblivion. It's not gonna be a good. It's not gonna be a good sci-fi movie, like Tom Cruise made the other year. And I think this movie proved everyone so wrong because it was an amazing movie. I went into it thinking it was gonna be an awesome movie, of course, but but it was just such an amazing movie. Like I like how it handled time travel. It almost had no plot holes, but except for like a few that you could probably see the next time watching it through. And it's a gutsy ending that they went with. It was like, screw it, we're gonna do this for the ending, and people are going to accept it, and of course people did, duh. And this movie is just such a good movie, and it definitely is like one of the best movies I've seen all year because Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt are so good in this movie. Tom Cruise plays this freaking wimp at the beginning of the movie. He's like, oh, I'm not getting that battle, screw that. No, and then it shows how he develops as a character and how he develops with like how he gets into like the action groove and whatnot, and how he realizes he has to do this to protect everyone. And Emily Blunt is probably one of the best like examples of a good female role in movies I've seen all year, and it definitely shows in this movie, and that is why Edge of Tomorrow is number 5 on my list. And number 4 on my list. This is a crazy movie. It was a very amazing movie, though. It was just probably one of the best experiences I had in theaters all year. I remember I went and saw this the day it came out, and when I watched it, I was just, at the end of it, I was just, holy crap. There was a lot of old people in the theater when I did it. But the number 4 spot on my list goes to Now, Gone Girl was such an amazing movie. I saw it twice. I saw this movie twice. It's a almost 3 hour long movie, and I saw it twice. It's an amazing movie, though. My mom got all like grossed out about it and stuff, but it's like, that's the charm of it. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much because this is an amazing movie. It is such a thrilling movie. This was a true like thriller mystery crime thing. Ben Affleck is probably one of the best roles he's ever done. I haven't seen The Town yet, but I need to watch that sometime. And Rosamund Pike is amazing as his wife in the movie. And Tyler Perry for playing a comedy dude, comedian, whatever, in basically and dressing up as a woman in almost every single one of the movies he does. For this movie, this is probably the best I've ever seen him in a movie. I will be honest with you. I mean, he just gives such a good performance in this movie. Everyone in this movie gives great performances. The story is great. This movie will twist like it twists like a Twizzler. That's how many twists are in this movie. I mean, it's just such an amazing movie. I'm not going to give anything away about it because it's something you should know nothing about going into it. And guys, that is why Gone Girl is number 4 on my list. A movie came out last year called Prisoners. Is one of my favorite. It was definitely my favorite movie of the year of 2013, and it was a movie that pushed me to go see more movies. I needed to go see more movies that were really good, and this is the movie. That was the movie that did it, and of course that movie, from that movie comes probably one of the best actors of all time. I mean, this guy is definitely my favorite actor of the year. If he doesn't win an Academy Award for this, I will lose all faith in the Academy and probably never. Well, I probably watch the Academy Awards still, but I won't ever trust any of their opinions ever again. And that movie that is next on my list is. So, I saw this movie right after I watched Big Hero 6. Nightcrawler is such a freaking amazing movie. I mean, I saw this after I saw Big Hero 6. I wasn't expecting much out of this movie, I'm going to be honest with you. But I watched it, and I'm like sitting in the theater. There were only 2 other people in the theater. And I'm sitting in there, I'm like, holy crap, this is an amazing movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the best actors of all time because you didn't see him in this movie. It was kind of how Bradley Cooper, you didn't hear Bradley Cooper when you heard him as Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy. When you watch this movie and Jake Gyllenhaal is performing, you don't see him as Jake Gyllenhaal anymore. You see him as a completely different character. And he is just such a awesome actor. He gives the best performance of 2014 in my opinion. And the last like 20 minutes of this movie I think are some of the best. It's like one of the best endings I've seen all year for a movie. And guys, you should definitely check this out when it comes out because I'm pretty sure it's not in theaters anymore. When it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, you should definitely pick it up. And that is why Nightcrawler is number 3 on my list. Now, number 2, I don't know if you were expecting it to be number 1 or not, but number 2 on my list is probably one of the best movies I've seen all year, and that is. Where do I begin with Birdman? This is probably. Between this and my number 1, it was such a hard dilemma for me. I was thinking about it, I thought about it so long, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This movie was an amazing movie. It's not going to get number 1, but it was still probably one of my favorite movies of the year. And because Michael Keaton, holy crap, he just was like, hey, I'm going to make a movie and I'm going to do amazing in it because you haven't seen me in a movie and been amazing. You haven't seen me be amazing in a movie for a while, so let me do that. And Michael Keaton knocks it out of the park. This is probably the best I've ever seen him. Edward Norton's awesome. Naomi Watts, Emma Stone, and Zach Galifianakis. They're all amazing in this movie. And this movie was such a good look on like the film industry as a whole and not just like what its relevance as a plot was to the movie itself. It was a good look on the film industry and like critics and how films are made and uh, how everyone likes. It seems like almost everyone only goes to the movie if it's an action movie, or like how people only like green screen explosions. And I like all the aspects of this film, and it's such an amazing film. You guys need to see this film. I implore you to see it, and that is why Birdman gets number 2 on my list. Next up, guys, you probably saw this coming. If you didn't, that's fine. You didn't have to see it coming. Number 1 on my list is Whiplash. J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller, you are probably some of the best performances I've seen all year. J.K. Simmons, you barely got that best performance of the year, in my opinion. Almost close to Jake Gyllenhaal. Just not enough for me when it came to your character, but holy crap, this movie was amazing. This movie, I literally went into this not really knowing much about it. I really saw this because I heard it was a good movie and I needed to go watch it. And holy crap, J.K. Simmons is amazing in this movie. He is such a hard ass. It's like, oh my gosh. You wanna know why I threw that chair at you? You wanna know why I just threw that chair at your head right now? Because of the beat? Yeah. It was such an awesome movie. J.K. Simmons probably gives the best performance I've ever seen him in. I haven't seen a lot of movies with him in it, but this reminds me so much of like, it's like a mix of like a bunch of his angry characters like Cave Johnson from Portal 2 and J. Jonah Jameson, and Miles Teller gives an amazing performance too. I haven't seen any movies with him in it, but it doesn't matter because he was just amazing in this movie, and it showed stuff like striving to achieve and to be the best. And I like that J.K. Simmons' perspective on being the best means you have to be tough, even though many people might not agree with it. It's just an amazing message in a movie too. And guys, Whiplash was just such an experience in theaters. Literally, I think the ending of this movie, I didn't know whether to just I didn't know whether to sit there for I didn't know whether at the very end to just sit there or to stand up and start clapping and cheering for the ending of this movie. And in the end, I just stood there with my mouth open for like a whole like minute or so. I'm just like, holy crap. The music in this movie was amazing. Like, I didn't even know before when I made my review that Miles Teller actually knows how to play the drums, and it makes sense because you probably would need to know that before you make this movie. But this is such an amazing movie. It had the best ending of the year. And guys, it is my number 1 movie of 2014. Now that my list is over and that you've heard my opinions on everything, I would like to know what your lists are. If you would like to post that in the comments, then please do so. And if you don't, then that is okay too. And you can just like my list even more. And guys, I just want to thank you so much for watching. This was just a blast to make. I was in the middle of making this. I was just having so much fun. And this is probably the most fun I've had with filming all of year. And I just want to thank whoever watches this. I just want to thank you all for watching. And with that, guys,